The alien queen took his hand and said, "You are mine forever, asterisk. The unexpected encounter first contact changes everything. Lieutenant Jake Morrison never expected his morning coffee to be interrupted by an alien invasion." The communication officer. Aboard the space station, Harmony was just settling into his routine when the proximity alarm screamed across the bridge. Through the massive viewport, he watched in amazement as a ship unlike anything in human records glided toward them with impossible grace. The vessel looked like liquid. Starlight had been shaped into art. Its surface rippled with colors that had no earthly names, and strange symbols pulsed along its hull like a heartbeat. Captain Rodriguez barked orders, but Jake found himself mesmerized by the alien craft's beauty. This wasn't the violent first contact humanity had always feared. This felt different, almost peaceful. The Queen arrives when the airlock hissed open. Jake held his breath. The figure that emerged made his heart skip entirely. She was tall, elegant, with skin that seemed to shimmer between silver and deep blue. Her eyes held the depth of galaxies, and when she moved, it was like watching water flow uphill. Most striking of all was the crown of crystalline formations that grew naturally from her temples, marking her as royalty among her people. Queen Zephyra of the Luminary Empire had traveled across the void for one purpose. Her advisors had detected something extraordinary from this small human outpost, something that called to the ancient magic flowing through her veins. She had expected to find a primitive species, but the moment her gaze met Jake's, everything changed. The human male standing before her radiated something she had never encountered in her 3 centuries of life. His aura blazed with curiosity, kindness, and an inexplicable connection that made her breath catch. The Luminari had legends of soul bonds that transcended species, but she had dismissed them as folklore until this moment. An impossible connection. Jake stepped forward when the translator devices activated, his natural friendliness overcoming. Protocol. Welcome to Harmony Station. I'm Jake Morrison. His smile was genuine, unafraid, and it hit Zephyra like a solar flare. I am Queen Zephyra, she replied, her voice carrying harmonics that made the air itself seem to sing. I have come seeking something that calls to my people's ancient ways. What neither of them expected was the immediate spark that ignited between them. When Jake offered to show her around the station, Zephyra found herself agreeing, despite her royal duties. As they walked through the corridors, Jake's enthusiasm for human ingenuity and his genuine interest in her culture created an atmosphere neither had experienced before. Jake showed her the hydroponics bay where humans grew food in space, the recreation areas where families played together, and the observation deck where children pressed their faces against windows to stare at stars. Each human innovation amazed Zephyra, but what truly captured her was Jake's pride in his species, determination to explore and create despite their limitations. The magic awakens as the day progressed. Something extraordinary began happening around them. Flowers in the hydroponics bay bloomed brighter when they passed. Electronic devices hummed more efficiently. Even the artificial gravity seemed more stable. The station's engineer, Dr. Patricia Wells, ran diagnostics 3 times before accepting that systems were actually improving in their presence. Zephyra recognized the signs. The ancient bond her grandmother had described in stories was awakening. But this was impossible. The Luminari had searched for millennia for another species capable of such connection. How could these young humans, barely reaching beyond their own star system, possess such power? Jake felt it too, though he couldn't name it. Around Zephyra, he felt more alive, more capable. His usual awkwardness disappeared, replaced by confidence and clarity he'd never known. When she laughed at his jokes about human coffee being terrible, her joy seemed to light up the room, literally as the artificial. Day cycle ended. They found themselves alone on the observation deck, watching stars wheel by in comfortable silence. Neither wanted this impossible day to end, but both knew that morning would bring questions neither was ready to answer. Understanding the bond royal, duties and human hearts, the next morning brought complications Jake had never imagined. Queen Zephyrus, royal escort, led by her stern advisor General Thyron, arrived with 3 more luminary vessels. The general's disapproval was evident in every flickering change of his skin tone as he watched his queen spending time with a human. Your Majesty. Thyron's voice carried the weight of centuries. The High Council grows concerned. You were to assess their technology and return. Instead, you linger with these ... creatures. Jake bristled at the word creatures, but Zephyrus' touch on his arm calmed him instantly. That simple contact sent waves of warmth through both of them, and Thyron's eyes widened as he witnessed the phenomenon firsthand. Captain Rodriguez called an emergency meeting. The bridge buzzed with tension as human officers tried to understand what was happening to their station. Systems continued improving beyond their specifications. Plants grew faster. Even the recycled air seemed fresher. Dr. Wells presented readings that defied known physics. It's like the station itself is evolving, she explained, gesturing at her impossible data. Whatever's causing this is centered around Lieutenant Morrison and our royal visitor. Ancient prophecies and modern science in her private chambers aboard. The Luminary flagship, Zephyra consulted the Codex of Bonds, an ancient text passed down through royal bloodlines. The luminescent pages revealed prophecies her tutors had called mythology. According to the writings, once every 1,000 cycles, a luminary ruler would find their resonance match among the stars. The bond would manifest as mutual enhancement of abilities, shared emotional states, and most importantly, the power to bridge 2 species toward a greater destiny. The human species' rapid development, their creativity and resilience, suddenly made sense. They were evolving toward this moment. Meanwhile, Jake researched everything humanity knew about the Luminari. Their empire spanned dozens of star systems, built not through conquest, but through what they called harmonic integration. Species that could resonate with Luminari energy became partners in their galactic community. Those that couldn't were left alone but offered protection. What fascinated Jake most was learning that the Luminari themselves had been ordinary beings once, transformed by their first resonance bond with an ancient race called the Architects. The bond hadn't just changed individuals, it had elevated their entire civilization, not growing stronger together as days passed. Jake and Zephyrah spent every possible moment together. She taught him to sense the energy flows that Luminari could naturally perceive, while he showed her how. Humans approached problems with determination and creative thinking that amazed her. Together, they discovered that their bond allowed them to accomplish impossible things. Jake could now interface directly with Luminari technology, his human intuition guiding their advanced systems in ways that astounded even Zephyrah. She, in turn, found that her royal powers were amplified beyond anything in recorded history. Worked together to solve a crisis when pirates attacked a nearby trade route. Jake's tactical thinking combined with Zephyrah's ability to coordinate energy fields resulted in a defense strategy that disabled the attackers without casualties. The pirates' weapons simply stopped working as their destructive energy was transformed into harmless light. Opposition grows. Not everyone approved of their growing connection. General Thyron argued that the bond was dangerous, untested, potentially catastrophic for both species. Some human officials worried about losing their independence to an alien empire, no matter how benevolent. During a heated council meeting, tensions finally exploded. "You're compromising everything humanity has worked for," accused Commander Stevens, the station's security chief. "What happens when she gets bored and moves on?" Jake stood to defend Zephyrah, but she placed her hand over his. "Commander Stevens raises valid concerns," she said calmly. Perhaps it would be better if I departed before causing more disruption. The moment she spoke those words, both Jake and Zephyra gasped as if physical pain had struck them. Around the station, systems began fluctuating. The improvements they had brought were starting to reverse. Dr. Wells frantically checked her. Readings as everything they had gained began to fade out. It was then that everyone realized the bond wasn't just between two individuals. It was between two species, and breaking it would diminish both. Separation's painful truth, Queen Zephyra's departure, felt like watching the sun dim. Jake stood at the observation deck, staring at the empty space where her ship had been just hours before. Throughout Harmony Station, the evidence of their connections. Absence was everywhere. Plants drooped, systems ran less efficiently, and even the artificial lighting seemed harsher. Dr. Wells approached with her latest readings, her expression grim. Jake, you need to see this. It's not just the station that's affected. I'm detecting similar energy fluctuations from the Luminary fleet. Through the long-range sensors, they could see Zephyra's flagship drifting slightly off course. Its usually perfect formation, showing signs of instability. The separation was hurting both sides, proving that their bond was more than personal attraction. It was a fundamental connection that benefited everyone around them. The Council's decision to board the Luminary flagship. Zephyra sat in her meditation chamber, trying to center herself, while her advisors debated frantically. General Thyron paced the crystal floors, his skin patterns shifting through agitated colors as he argued with the other council members. The human contamination is spreading through our systems, he declared. Our navigation is imprecise. Our energy cores are fluctuating. This proves the bond is destructive. But Elder Lyrian, the oldest member of their council, disagreed. General, consider the possibility that we are not being contaminated, but evolved. The Codex speaks of bonds that elevate both species. Perhaps this discomfort is the growing pain of becoming something greater. Zephyra felt every word of their debate like a physical ache. Through their developing connection, she could sense Jake's distress matching her own. The bond was calling them back together with an intensity that made concentration nearly impossible. Jake's bold plan unable to bear the separation any longer. Jake made a decision that shocked everyone on Harmony Station. He requested permission to take a shuttle to the Luminary fleet, alone and unarmed, to propose a formal meeting between species leaders. Captain Rodriguez tried to talk him out of it. Jake, you're emotionally compromised. This could be seen as an act of war or, worse, surrender. Captain, with respect, what I'm feeling isn't just emotion. It's like losing half of myself. Jake gestured toward the malfunctioning systems around them. Look what's happening to us. Now imagine what we could accomplish together. Dr. Wells supported his plan with scientific backing. The energy readings don't lie. Whatever this bond is, it's beneficial to both species. We're stronger together, literally. Against his better judgment, Captain Rodriguez authorized the shuttle mission. As Jake piloted the small craft toward the Luminary fleet, he felt the connection strengthening with each kilometer he closed. By the time he requested permission to board Zephyra's ship, both their vessels were already showing improved performance. Reunion and revelation. The moment Jake stepped into Zephyra's presence, the air itself seemed to shimmer with renewed energy. Their relief at being reunited was so intense that it manifested as visible light patterns dancing around them. Even General Thyron couldn't deny the positive effects as ship systems throughout the fleet returned to optimal function. The bond is not a weakness, Zephyra announced to her assembled council, her hand finding Jake's naturally. It is evolution. Through this human, I can see possibilities our species never imagined. Through me, he gains access to technologies and perspectives that could elevate his people beyond their current limitations. Jake addressed the Luminary Council with growing confidence. Your Majesty, honored advisors, humanity has always grown. Stronger through cooperation. We've learned to work with different cultures, different ideas. This bond isn't about one species dominating another. It's about both becoming more than we could alone. To demonstrate their point, they worked together to solve a complex energy regulation problem that had puzzled luminary engineers for decades. Jake's human intuition guided Zephyra's energy manipulation abilities, resulting in a breakthrough that increased their fleet's efficiency by 30%. The growing opposition, however, not everyone was convinced. Reports reached both groups that hardline factions on Earth were preparing to classify the Luminari as a potential threat. Similarly, elements within the Luminari Empire viewed the human bond as dangerous precedent that could destabilize their carefully ordered society. Admiral Harrison, Earth's chief military strategist, sent encrypted messages demanding Jake's immediate return and quarantine. We cannot allow one officer's infatuation to compromise humanity's independence, his message stated bluntly. Meanwhile, the Luminary High Council transmitted urgent orders for Zephyra to end the experiment and return to established protocols. The political pressure from both sides threatened to tear apart what they had begun to build. Standing together in Zephyra chambers, they realized their greatest test was yet to come. The bond had proven itself beneficial, but could it survive the fear and prejudice of their respective peoples? Political storms, the crisis erupted when Admiral Harrison arrived at Harmony Station with a full battle fleet, while simultaneously, the Luminary High Council dispatched Inquisitor Velkin, known throughout their empire for his ruthless efficiency in dealing with deviations from established order. Jake found himself confined to quarters under military guard while Zephyra was recalled to face a formal tribunal aboard the Luminary command ship. The forced separation sent shockwaves through both fleets as systems began failing and crew members on both sides reported feeling inexplicably weakened. Dr. Wells worked frantically to document the phenomenon. Admiral, the energy readings are undeniable. When they're together, both fleets operate at peak efficiency. Separated, we're looking at cascade failures within 72 hours. Admiral Harrison dismissed her concerns. Doctor, we cannot base military decisions on mystical nonsense. Lieutenant Morrison has been compromised by alien influence. The Tribunal of Hearts in the Luminary Tribunal Chamber, Zephyra faced her accusers with regal composure despite the pain of separation tearing at her soul. Inquisitor Velkin's voice carried the cold authority of absolute law as he presented his charges. Queen Zephyra, you stand accused of compromising the purity of Luminary essence through unauthorized bonding with a primitive species. The contamination spreads throughout your fleet, weakening our people's natural abilities. Elder Lyrian stood in her defense. Inquisitor, the accused has demonstrated unprecedented growth in power and wisdom. Perhaps what you call contamination is actually evolution. But Velkin was unmoved. Evolution follows natural law. This aberration defies everything we understand about species compatibility. The human must be eliminated, and the queen must undergo purification. The moment he spoke of harming Jake, Zephyra's careful composure shattered. Energy erupted from her in waves that sent the tribunal members staggering. The ship's lights flickered as her emotional response manifested as raw power. You will not harm him, she declared, her voice carrying harmonics that made the crystal walls resonate. If you cannot see that this bond makes us stronger, then you are blind to the very future of our people. Breaking free Jake's human ingenuity kicked in when he overheard guards discussing orders to transfer him to a detention facility on Earth, using maintenance conduits he'd mapped during his years. On the station, he escaped confinement with help from Dr. Wells and several sympathetic crew members. This is mutiny, Captain Rodriguez warned, but his tone suggested he wasn't entirely opposed to the idea. "Captain, this is evolution," Jake replied, making his way to the shuttle bay. "And I'm not letting fear destroy the best thing that's ever happened to either of our species." Meanwhile, Zephyra's loyal followers helped her escape the tribunal ship in a daring rescue that showcased both Luminary advanced technology and human tactical thinking they'd learned through their bond. General Thyron, witnessing his queen's power firsthand, finally understood that the bond wasn't weakness, but unprecedented strength. Proof of power, the escaped lovers met at the coordinates of an ancient luminary shrine located on a small moon between their fleets. As their shuttles approached the sacred site, both Admiral Harrison and Inquisitor Velkin mobilized their forces for what seemed like an inevitable confrontation. But Jake and Zephyra had a different plan. Standing together in the shrine's crystal chamber, they opened their bond completely for the first time. The energy release was so powerful that it created a visible aurora that could be seen from both fleets. More importantly, the energy wave carried information. Every person within range, human and luminary alike, suddenly experienced shared memories, emotions, and understanding. They felt what the bonded pair felt: complete acceptance, mutual respect, and love that transcended species barriers. Admiral Harrison gasped as he experienced Jake's memories of growing up on Earth, while simultaneously feeling Zephyra's perspective on the same experiences. The human drive for exploration, creativity, and hope resonated with something deep in the luminary psyche. Inquisitor Velkin staggered as he felt his own rigid certainties challenged by the profound harmony between two beings who should have been incompatible. The bond wasn't corrupting either species. It was revealing their potential for growth, that declaration standing in the shrine's heart. Hands clasped and energy flowing between them like visible starlight. Jake and Zephyra made their declaration, not just to each other, but to both their peoples. "I choose love over fear," Jake announced, his voice carrying through both fleets via the energy connection. "I choose growth over stagnation, cooperation over isolation. I choose the bond that makes us stronger," Zephyra added, her royal authority lending weight to every word. "I choose the future we can build together over the limitations of what we were apart." The energy pulse that followed their words carried one more surprise. Throughout both fleets, other humans and luminari began experiencing their own resonance connections. The bond wasn't unique to Jake and Zephyra. They had simply been the first to embrace it, as similar energy patterns appeared around dozens of other individuals. Both Admiral Harrison and Inquisitor Velkin realized they were witnessing the birth of something unprecedented, the first true interspecies evolution in galactic history. The new alliance, 6 months after their declaration of love, changed everything. Jake Morrison stood beside Queen Zephyra in the newly constructed Unity Station, a marvel of combined human ingenuity and luminary energy manipulation. The station orbited at the midpoint between Earth and the luminary home system, serving as both embassy and symbol of their unprecedented alliance. The transformation had been remarkable. What started as two individuals falling in love had sparked a revolution of cooperation that exceeded everyone's wildest expectations. Human creativity combined with luminary energy mastery had produced innovations that neither species could have achieved alone. Dr. Wells, now heading the Joint Research Division, presented her latest findings to the Mixed Council of Humans and Luminari. The bonding phenomenon has stabilized across 47 pairs. Each partnership shows the same pattern: enhanced abilities for both individuals and improved efficiency in all surrounding systems. Personal growth. Jake had grown beyond the nervous communication officer he'd once been. The bond with Zephyra had unlocked potential he never knew he possessed. He could now interface directly with both human and luminary technology, serving as a bridge between the two different approaches to science and engineering. But more than his abilities had changed. His confidence, His perspective on what was possible, his very understanding of love itself, had evolved. Looking at Zephyra as she addressed the council with wisdom that amazed even her own people, he marveled at how much they had both grown through their connection. Zephyra had also transformed. The reserved royal who had arrived at Harmony Station had blossomed into a leader whose vision extended far beyond traditional luminary boundaries. Through Jake's human perspective, she had learned to value individual creativity and determination alongside collective harmony. The future we're building together proves that love isn't just an emotion, she told the assembled representatives. It's a force for evolution, for growth, for becoming more than we ever imagined possible. Overcoming final obstacles, not everyone had accepted the changes easily. Admiral Harrison, though no longer openly hostile, struggled with humanity's rapid integration with alien technology. During private meetings, he expressed concerns about dependency and loss of human identity. Jake addressed his worries directly. Admiral, we're not losing our humanity. We're expanding what it means to be human. Every breakthrough we've made happened because we brought human thinking to luminary problems, and vice versa. Similarly, some luminary elders worried about their ancient traditions being diluted by human influence. Inquisitor Vulcan, surprising. Everyone with his changed perspective became their advocate. The traditions we preserve should strengthen us, not limit us, he argued before the High Council. The bond reveals that our greatest tradition, harmony with the universe itself, includes harmony with other species capable of resonance. The wedding of worlds, when Jake and Zephyra announced their intention to marry, it sparked the first truly interspecies royal wedding in galactic history. The ceremony, designed to honor both human and luminary traditions, became a celebration that lasted 3 days and included representatives from 17 different worlds. The highlight came when they exchanged vows in the ancient luminary tradition of soul binding, while simultaneously following human customs of ring exchange and personal promises. As they spoke their commitments to each other, energy patterns danced around them that translated their emotions into visible light. I promise to love you not just as you are, but as you grow and change, Jake vowed, his words creating spirals of golden light, to be your partner in discovery, your companion in adventure, your anchor in uncertainty. Zephyra's response manifested as silver streams that intertwined with his golden spirals. I promise to cherish your human heart that showed me new ways to see the universe, to stand beside you as we build bridges between worlds, to love you through every lifetime the stars may grant us. When they kissed, the energy release created an aurora visible from orbit, marking the moment when two individuals became something entirely new while remaining completely themselves. The forever promise years later, as Jake and Zephyra walked through the gardens of Unity Station, watching human children play alongside young luminari, they reflected on how far they had come. The gardens themselves were impossible without their partnership. Human botanical knowledge creating ecosystems that luminary energy techniques could sustain in space. Do you ever regret it? Jake asked, watching a human girl teaching a luminary boy how to skip stones in the artificial pond. Choosing us over the easy path? Zephyra smiled, her hand finding his with the naturalness of shared heartbeats. Beloved, there was never a choice. From the moment I saw you, there was only this path, this future, this love that encompasses more than just two people. Their bond had indeed grown beyond personal love to become something that elevated everyone around them. The station buzzed with the happy energy of successful cooperation, of barriers broken down and new possibilities born from unity. As they stood together watching the stars wheel by, Jake remembered that first day when he'd offered to show an alien queen around a human station. He'd had no idea he was offering to share not just his world, but his entire future. Forever mine, Zephyra whispered, echoing the words that had started their journey. Forever yours, Jake replied, and forever free to grow into whatever we become together. The energy that flowed between them carried their love out into the cosmos, a beacon of hope that somewhere among the stars, other species might find their own paths to connection, growth, and the kind of love that transforms galaxies. Their story had become legend, but more importantly, it had become foundation for a future where love truly conquered not through force, but through the simple courage to remain open to impossible possibilities.